So I just got out of a Thursday night showing of 28 Years Later, and I honestly cannot believe what I just watched. I think this may be a Last Jedi level divisive movie. Before we get too far, I think it's important that we address the hype around this movie. Not only is this movie 10 years in the making and a sequel to two of the absolute best zombie movies in the zombie genre, it's also made by two filmmakers that have had strong careers since the makings of these movies. Mr. Danny Boyle has won an Oscar, and Alex Garland has made a plethora of great movies, including Civil War, Ex Machina, the list goes on and on. So the hype around 28 Years Later is honestly absolutely deserved. But oh boy, did they really miss the mark with this one. I have not been this disappointed in a movie since The Last Jedi and Halloween Kills. The decisions in this movie are that questionable. First off, I think we gotta talk about the trailer. It's absolutely phenomenal. Sets the tone, doesn't spoil anything. Based off the trailer, you would think this is gonna be a gritty, realistic take on the zombie genre. You know, just like 28 Weeks Later was, just like 28 Days Later was before that. But boy, the atmosphere does not match that trailer whatsoever. Honestly, this may be one of the biggest bait and switch trailers I have seen in a very long time. The tone is nothing. For anybody who hasn't seen this yet, the tone is absolutely nothing like that trailer. If you go in with maybe that in mind, you will like it a little bit more than I did, but I was expecting a dark, gritty, realistic take on the zombie genre. But it just is not that. This movie is so tonally inconsistent, it honestly is shocking. This movie's tone is completely inconsistent with the previous movies. I feel like they had absolutely no idea what they wanted this movie to be. Right from the very beginning of this movie's tone feels very off. That due in part is due to the music choices they happen to choose for this movie. Honestly, this is some of the most bizarre, tonally wrong, and inconsistent music choices I have ever seen for a horror film. There's so many moments in this movie where the score is completely inconsistent from what's going on in this movie. I'll give you one example. Like, at the very beginning of the movie, they basically try to recreate the absolute magic of 28 Weeks Later, which is probably one of the best horror openings of all time. But they try to recreate that. But how they miss the mark here is they use this absolutely out of place guitar music. Like it's like almost upbeat in a way, like when things are going down. It completely removes any tension from the scene. Like it's so questionable why they chose that music. It's not just in the beginning of the movie either. It's like throughout the entire movie where this music does not fit the dark post-apocalyptic tone. I really can't say anything more than that. The soundtrack missed the mark by a country mile. This brings me to my next problem with this movie. This movie's editing is honestly terrible. It's pretty common knowledge that the best type of editing is when you don't notice it at all. But in 28 Years Later, you're constantly distracted by poor editing choices. And a decision that absolutely baffles me, during the very beginning of the movie, mind you, when the two main characters, Aaron Taylor Johnson's character and his son, are walking from their little island they live on to the mainland, they start cutting between old war footage and the two characters walking across like this big land bridge that sometimes forms when the shore's low. Like, it's honestly baffling. It just comes out of nowhere. They start cutting between the two characters walking across this land bridge and the old war footage while the music from the trailer, the boots, boots, boots starts playing. And it truly is weird. It's honestly weird. As they're crossing this huge water bridge, they cut back and forth between them walking between the huge water bridge between the town and the mainland. And from that point on, the movie doesn't get any better in the editing department. It's bizarre choice after bizarre choice. This brings me to the most bizarre editing choice of all in this movie. Almost every single kill in this movie is shot in like this slow-mo weird, you know, like when Neo freezes in the Matrix when he goes all the way back dodging the bullets. It does like this weird freeze frame and the camera pans around to like where the zombie got shot with a bullet or crossbow or whatever. Every single kill is like that. I am not exaggerating. Almost every single kill does that bizarre, weird freeze frame from the Matrix. Not only does that editing get completely tiresome like after the second kill, it's absolutely completely immersion breaking when in terms of horror. That weird, slow, freeze frame, Matrix kill, whatever you want to call it, it completely makes the film like feel like an action movie. It's so bizarre. It's like I said earlier, this movie's tone is completely all over the place. And that's one clear example of that. I'll give you another example how this movie's tone is completely inconsistent. The very first kill of a zombie in this movie is completely bizarre. It's almost this weird Evil Dead-esque. He gets shot, and there's blood splattering everywhere. Psh, psh, psh. It's so weird. Like, this does not feel like 28 days later. When did that happen in 28 weeks later? Sure, these movies have lots of blood, but it doesn't go into the area of like almost feels like it's campy. Like it's only the one kill too. Like it never gets that amount of blood like and then kills further into the movie. These tonal inconsistencies just make me feel like they had no idea which direction they wanted to take this movie. At one point it wants to be an action movie. At one point it wants to be a drama. At one point, it tries to be a horror movie, but fails because it doesn't build any atmosphere due to weird kills that are over the top, and weird freeze frame Matrix style, and then weird bizarre music choices. Like, they had no idea where they wanted to take this movie. And it's honestly saddening because 28 weeks later, 28 days later, both of these movies have great atmosphere, great tone. Honestly, like I said earlier, the beginning of 28 weeks later is probably one of the best horror movie openings of all time. There's nothing that feels like that in this movie. At times, I honestly even struggle to say this was a horror movie. Like, I'm one of those guys that says horror movies can be millions of different things. They don't need to be scary. They don't necessarily need to be that to be a horror movie. Just need to have horror elements. But with this movie, it just completely took me out of the atmosphere, the tone, just completely took me out of the movie where I didn't know what I was watching. And it's really disheartening because these guys know how to make a great, scary, intense, anxiety-induced horror movie. They created 28 Days Later. They created the beginning of 28 Weeks Later, which is probably one of the best horror movie openings of all time. They know what they're doing. But for whatever reason, they missed the mark with this. And this brings me to another bait and switch kind of problem with this movie. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who you would probably feel based off all the promotional material, the poster, he has like the top billing on the poster. You probably think, oh, he's going to be in this, he's the main character. He's going to be in this movie. This is Godzilla, Legendary's Godzilla, all over again. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who honestly has probably the best performance in the entire movie, is barely, and I mean barely, in this movie. Now, I'm not going to spoil of what happens to him or why he isn't in the majority of the movie. I just feel like I need to point out that he's barely in this movie, and it's a shame because he honestly delivers probably the best performance in the entire movie, like I said. The lead of this movie actually happens to be the boy who plays Aaron Taylor Johnson's son, that I think they feature him in the trailers. And I don't want to hate on a kid, man. I don't want to do it, but he just doesn't deliver a strong enough performance to lead this movie. Like, his performance honestly isn't terrible, but it just isn't good enough to lead a movie like this. That really is the struggle with child actors. Finding a great one, honestly, is like finding a damn needle in a haystack. Finally, I gotta talk about just how there's just some straight, weird, bizarre scenes out of nowhere. It's almost like the George Lucas effect, like how he went back to the special editions and just added a bunch of random shit out of nowhere. It's like stuff happening for the sake of just happening. Like an animal or an alien walking across the screen. There's scenes like that in this movie, if that makes any sense. These are scenes in the movie that just didn't serve like any real purpose. Brings me back to atmosphere. It just completely takes you out of the movie and breaks any sort of tension that should be building up throughout this movie. I'm going to talk about one scene in particular. So this is your warning. This is a minor spoiler. This scene, to me, was equivalent to Luke dying on the rock in The Last Jedi. It felt that bad in terms of why. Just why. So at one point in this movie, I'm not going to say when, gets to parody levels of bad. There is one scene where the most over-the-top, goofy, stupid gangster characters come and start killing a bunch of zombies. I'm talking about over-the-top, 90s, cartoonish, dumb gangster level bad. Like, hey man, you want to buy some drugs? These gangster characters start randomly killing zombies, doing backflips. I am not joking. They do backflips and all sorts of dumb flips while wearing the stupid jewelry, over-the-top voices. It's completely parody level. Completely parody level. Like, at that point, I knew I had to make this video. It honestly felt like Garland and Boyle were just taking the piss at that moment. Like, what the hell was that? It completely does not match anything. Anything. With 28 weeks later and 28 days later. Like, man. Honestly, don't know what else to say. This was my most anticipated movie by far this year. By a country mile. I thought this was going to be my movie of the year. I thought it was going to be, live up to the hype. I thought it was going to be just as good, or at least not worse than 28 weeks later. But it somehow is significantly worse than 28 weeks later. Like, 28 weeks later isn't a perfect movie, but they do so much right. With 28 years later, what more can I say? We've gone over it. They just completely missed the mark, man. Thought it was going to be my movie of the year. Didn't even make my top 10. Might be the worst movie I've seen all year. I can't believe I just said that. It might be the worst movie I've seen all year. And I saw a clown in the cornfield.